What is going on, guys? It is Jamil with MILMID Studios. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another video. Today, we're going to be looking at New York Times photographer Doug Mills. And the reason we're going to be taking a look at Doug Mills is because he was present, he was front and center in Pennsylvania, taking photographs, practicing photojournalism, when there was an attempt on the life of presidential candidate Donald J. Trump. Now, to be clear, we are steering way clear of any politics. This is a photography channel, so we're going to keep it photography based, and there's a lot of photography content that comes out of this event, and we'll get there in a second. So to start off, guys, who is Doug Mills? Doug Mills is a two-time Pulitzer Prize winning photographer. He actually started his coverage of the White House in 1983. So for context, 1983 to now, we're looking at about 40 years of dedicated photography, dedicated to the genre of photojournalism. And it took that much time. Yes, he was successful within that time, but it took that much time of being present and being on the scene to capture just a breathtaking, just a shocking moment like this. These are the quality and caliber of photos that last a lifetime. For example, think of Tiananmen Square. You guys know that picture. It's an iconic image. These things are locked into the annals of history. And it's just powerful that a photographer, you, me, we all have the ability to capture moments like these. And the key to that is being at the right place and the right time. Patience is key. We're going to take a look at this picture. But not only are we going to look at this picture, we're going to look at the settings that the photographer Doug Mills had when he took this photo. Now, these settings are sourced from Anthony Gugliotta. Gugliotta. I hope I said his name right. He is a fellow Canadian. Shout out. And he actually did a really good video showing the math behind this image and the odds of getting a shot like this. Okay, so as we see here, unfortunately we have to give credit to the Sony shooters because this image was actually taken with a Sony A1. It was a 24mm. He was shooting at f1.6 manual exposure, and the exposure time was 1/8000th of a second. Okay, he's shooting really high speed. It's actually interesting to see how, with the increase of technology in cameras, we are now able to capture minute details that would have been maybe a 1 in a million shot with a rangefinder, or a 1 in a million shot with even a camera 20 years ago. These cameras nowadays allow you to increase your chances dramatically to capture moments that would be really hard to capture with another older system. Okay, so let's get into a quick clip with ABC News and New York Times photographer Doug Mills as he recollects what it was like to experience this historical, dark moment.
I was part of that small pool that sits right up in the buffer zone, which is just feet from, and sometimes just inches from the podium. And the moments right before the bullets rang out, I was literally looking up at this huge flag that was up above him while he was speaking. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try and get some pictures of that flag flying. And then he gestured to his right and looked over, and all of a sudden the shots rang out, and it was pop, pop, pop. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so as I looked up, I kept taking pictures at the same time. And then when I saw him fall behind the podium, I thought, oh dear God, he's been shot.
And Doug, we know more than 24 hours later now, you've had a chance to study your images. Could you even believe that you captured that one image of what appears to be, one of those bullets so close to the former president's head?
All right, guys, before we get into the rest of the video, be sure to check out Japan 35 through 35 and Yellowknife 35 through 35, both of them available on Amazon for your convenience. Visit www.milmidstudios.com to figure out how you can get your own.
Yeah, David, it was one of those moments. I obviously didn't know it, so we were holding that tent. I was sending my pictures from my Sony camera back to the New York Times, and obviously the first pictures I wanted to send were the ones showing him defiant and coming off and alive. So I sent those, and then it dawned on me, it was like, oh my gosh, I think I was taking pictures while he was, while this whole thing happened, the pop, 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 and when the shots rang out. So I called one of my editors, Jen Mossbacher, and I was like, Jen, I'm sending you images that show him falling after he was hit. And she called me back about 5 minutes, David, and just said, Doug, you won't believe this. And I was like, what? And she said, and I thought I had done something wrong or I'd messed something up. And she said, "You actually have an image of the bullet passing behind his head." And I got chills. I was completely stunned.
I'm super passionate about photojournalism. Whenever I have an opportunity to visit a local protest, I like to go, regardless what it is, because I see myself as a neutral party, especially when I have a camera in my hand, and especially when I'm capturing an event. I think it's so good to have that mindset where you're not going to capture and show what life should be. You're showing what it is. You're showing the reality of what is, and that's what's so appealing to me about photojournalism. But also it's a dedication to the craft and a dedication to your task. Think about being in Doug Mills' position where you are maybe one of 4 photographers that have that level of access, and you're capturing pictures, you're doing your day-to-day job, the thing that you've been doing for 40 years, and you know, it's just another day at another rally, another day at another political event. And imagine what it would be like to hear that popping. And you have 2 choices, fight or flight. In this case, photograph or flee. And, you know, instinctively, what many people would want to do, it's, you know, self-preservation. We want to save ourselves. But it takes a special person, a special type of photographer to get into the mix of it and to run into that, to photograph it and to capture it, a moment in history that's so important. Kudos to all photojournalists. And one thing that we could learn, whether you're a street photographer, whether you're a landscape photographer, a nature or a wildlife photographer, trust me, whether you are any of those things, one thing that we can take from this photojournalist, Doug Mills, is that you have to be there. Right? That's why I always say, don't forget to keep on shooting. The whole point is you have to be there. You have to get out there. You have to have your camera nearby. You have to have it with you. You have to be dedicated to your craft, to capture that bison or that elk or that lion, to capture those street moments, to capture that beautiful landscape with the sun perfectly reflecting its light on the mountains. Like, regardless of what genre you're in, the lesson we can take from this photographer and photojournalists in general is that you have to be there, and you have to be willing to be there. You have to be committed to your task as a photographer. And I know it may sound dramatic, but this is the difference between getting the shot and not. And sometimes it takes patience. Sometimes you just have to go through thousands of exposures before you get the photo that you want, but I promise you, you'll get it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I hope that you're able to be inspired or at least get something beneficial from this video. Thank you so much for your support on my photo book, Japan 35 through 35, and now the second installment, Yellowknife 35 through 35. Visit www.milmidstudios.com to figure out how you can get your own. Remember guys, the best gear is the gear you have, and the best photos are the ones you take. Don't forget to keep on shooting.